Doom doom. Oh, well. And now the screen is blank. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to Horror Humpdays here on Wednesday. It is the 12th of February, and I, Bradley Bodeker, am bringing you a short story tonight. It's the first. Hey, Beth, how you doing? It's the first story from my book, Thin Spots. Just came out last October, I believe, and it's probably it is the thickest book that I've written. I got a little carried away. Hey, Shannon, how's it going? Hey, Steph. I'm very proud of this one. I don't know why, but everything came out pretty smooth. Hey, Kevin, how's it going? Sorry for being late, you guys. Just having a few issues getting this thing to boot up. But she booted up, and we are ready to rock here. Thin Spots is probably one of my favorite. Hey, Jessica, it's one of my favorite horror books that I've written. Even more so than my zombie book. The reason for that being is I just think that I've grown pretty much as a writer, and I've been able to tell my stories a little better than I used to when I first started publishing books. So, anyhow, I hope you guys agree. Tonight we're going to be starting off with the story called Rebirth, and we will be joining a death row inmate who is eating his last meal, and Father Benjamin, a young priest, is sitting down with him trying to give him some absolution for all of his heinous crimes. And things take a turn for the worst for him. So anyhow, we'll be getting into that. If you are interested in the book, if you do not have a copy yet, you can order it on Amazon. Shannon, I do have your copy. Actually, this is your copy. And the only reason I know that is because it's a little hard to do. I signed it, and you can't see it because it's too white. But, there we go. Shannon. So, yeah. So, here's your copy. I just got to get it to you. So, I'm thinking this weekend I'm going to try to visit my daughter down in Fairmont, so maybe we can do it this weekend. I can get the book to you. So, I do need to get a book to the library as well here in town, and a few other friends also want copies. So, and I believe I got a copy that's got to go to Dwayne as well. So, anyhow, with all that being said, let's get into the book. Since it's the first story, I'm going to read the introduction. I won't read the whole introduction because I get pretty wordy in the introduction as well. So, yeah. Shannon, why don't you shoot me, PM me your phone number, and then I'll get a hold. I'll call you if I plan on getting into town this weekend. So, all right, here we go. Thin Spots, and here's the difference between this book and the last one I just read. The last one I just read, each short story was a chapter in the book. This one, all the stories stand alone. So, there you go. All right. Dunestellen, which is German for thin spots. Here we are again, folks. Another book jam-packed with tales of horror. Thank you for picking up another anthology of scary stories. They've been such a pleasure to write, and I hope you feel as much joy reading the stories I've put here for you. In my book, Sleepwalker, we explored the possibility of parallel worlds and the thin spots between them. Writing this book, I began to realize that all the stories I've written happen in their own realities, and I was the thin spot. I'm the one that brought you to these worlds, and it was up to you to find your way back. Those previous stories were visions of the nightmares I have had. To change things up, in the book Pavor Nocturnus, I invited a handful of you readers to send me your nightmares, and I turned those into realities as well. That book blended all of those nightmares together so well, it also brought about the Land of Nod, which I think is the reality that all of my monsters and demons come from. Something that I will visit one day with another novel. So here we are with this little book of short horror stories. These realities came about organically. No nightmares. I just started with an idea, and they grew out of that. Some of them are brief, and some get a little wordy. But they are new realities that I cannot fathom the origin from whence they came. So the one we are reading tonight is... where are we here? I didn't even write it. I didn't even write anything. Oh, here we go. Rebirth is a take on reincarnation, serial killers, and vengeance. I'm not sure how else to describe this piece without spoiling it for you. Hey, Bobby. All right. So, before we go, a big thank you to Stephanie S. for her wonderful listening skills and unending support. Jenny S., who took the time and care to edit, and her unconditional friendship. I appreciate you gals more than you'll ever know. Bradley L. Bodeker, 2024. All right. Let's get into the meat of this. Meat. Rebirth. There was a steaming lobster in front of him, next to a perfectly seasoned Wagyu steak. Grilled asparagus with a square of butter melting into its deep green fronds. Little puddles of blood gathered at the lip of the plate. Next to that was a Rolling Rock beer in a sweaty green bottle and a 2-finger shot of Jameson Irish whiskey. "Do you want to say grace, Father?" The giant man, dressed in a white t-shirt and white boxers, said with a slight smile. "I didn't think a man such as yourself." The chaplain swirled the words around in his mouth. "Believe in God?" the man said, and sawed himself another chunk of steak and jabbed it into his mouth. "I'm just a man, Father, just like you or anybody else. I just got things mixed up around in here." The man uses a knife to gesture around his head. The priest is jumpy because he's the only person locked into what is called the death house, with one of the most violent serial killers in America. "You don't seem like the religious type, if you don't mind me saying," the priest says cautiously. "Maybe I don't believe in God the way you do." The man soaks up the blood in his plate with the last piece of steak. "Maybe my eyes are open and yours are closed because all that dogma and bullshit rules your Pope came up with." "What is it that you do believe in, then, Mr. Sloan? I'm sure you don't want to spend your last moments on Earth talking or praying to my God." "You're probably right there. But you're wrong about my last moments on Earth. I got plenty of moments still to come." "Mr. Sloan, in the next few minutes you're set to be executed. Perhaps you don't understand the gravity of your situation." There was a facial tic, just then, on Reginald Sloane's face, on the left corner of his rubbery lips. His whole body just froze, and the corner of his mouth pulled back, and somewhere in those green eyes of his, he wasn't home. Father Benjamin tensed up and was ready to make a run for the door. Sloane's right hand that held the steak knife trembled slightly. "Who gives a goddamn serial killer a steak knife in prison?" Father Troy Benjamin thought loudly in his mind. "Jesus, protect me from harm." Then, just like that, Sloane was back in his head, and chewing commenced. "I know exactly what I'm looking at, Father," Sloane said with a mouthful of asparagus. Butter dripped down the sides of his chin. He took a swallow of beer and then produced a deep, guttural belch which seemed to make him proud. "You preach about eternal damnation," Sloane said, grabbing a hold of the lobster tail. "It don't work like that. There's none of that pearly gate shit either." Father Benjamin raised an eyebrow. "Oh? Are you in the school of thought that we just terminate and blink out of existence?" "It's always black and white for you religious types, isn't it?" The twitch again. "You can't see beyond anything else. And if someone like me comes along, well, shit on a shingle, I must be insane." "Mr. Sloane." Benjamin shook out a Winston from a pack that was sitting on the table for Sloane and lit it with a match also provided by the Nebraska Department of Corrections. "You slaughtered over 30 people. Women, children, elderly, and even little babies. Have you no remorse for the sins that you've committed? Do you not feel that some form of retribution is owed for the sins you brought about?" "Hey, Chuck." "Sin, Father?" Sloane cracks the tail in half with his large, calloused hands. "Sin because you said it's wrong, or because your church says it's wrong?" "What's in the 10 Commandments? Thou shalt not kill." "And you believe that shit? Come on. There's several other religions that say the same damn thing. You don't think that shit was made up so they wouldn't get killed? Or that we wouldn't fuck one another's old ladies? Mankind is innately made to kill, or be killed. It's the way of animals, and it's the way of the human animal. What about all you priests fucking all them young kids? That's instinct. That's not a symptom of a mental problem. It only goes against the grain because the Holy Apostolic Church said it's wrong. But who are they? A bunch of hypocrites who hide their natural urges until it gets to be too much and they sin." "It's not human instinct to have sexual relations with children, Mr. Sloane," the priest says as he jabs out his cigarette and exhales a large plume of yellowish smoke. "Am I getting to you, Father?" Sloane says with that twitching smile, and then takes a large bite from the shell of the lobster tail. His face is completely greasy with garlic butter. "Little kids or some hot little bitch? It doesn't matter," Sloane continued. "If you don't lust after one thing, it'll be something else. Don't tell me you don't lust over some young little Catholic cunt sitting in the front row of her with her short little skirt climbing up those creamy white thighs." "That's enough," Benjamin spat. "There'll be no more talk like that. I am here to discuss your sins, offer you some absolution." "Oh, don't you worry. I'll be absolved. I don't need you to do that for me. You Catholics think you've got a direct line to the magic old man in the sky, don't you? Think your Pope is your antenna. Maybe you're here so that I can absolve you. I hardly think that a man who has committed the atrocities that you have can absolve me. I have other priests for such things." Father Benjamin grabbed for another Winston and then stopped himself. "Help yourself, Father," Sloane says and takes out a cigarette and puts it into the priest's trembling lips. "Here, let me light it for you." "Thank you." After Troy takes a long drag of the cig, he exhales, and that seems to calm his nerves a bit. "Can I ask you what sort of God you believe in? Why you think he is okay with the things you've done?" "You really want to know?" "Please, enlighten me." "Well, God created us in his image, correct?" The priest nods. "God isn't this hoity-toity stuffed shirt like you folks believe he is. He created us and loosed us upon the rest of his creation, gifted us with free will to do what we want. Yes, that means killing. That means fucking whatever we can get our hands on, taking whatever we feel like is ours. Why would he create all this and then say, here's a great big world, now don't touch anything? Sloane slurped up the little container that held the melted butter, and then sucked the last of the tender meat inside the lobster tail. When he finished, he chucked it at the far wall, where it hit the metal door. Father Benjamin sat quietly puffing his cigarette. He didn't have an answer for him. Not that one that would satisfy this glutton of evil sitting across the table from him. Are you saying that God has allowed you to kill all those innocents? The father asks. Well, didn't he? Sloane says, taking another gulp of beer. I mean, sure, I got caught, but it was by the police. There was no intervention from God. A bolt of lightning didn't rip from the clouds and strike me dead. No, it was 6 Omaha police officers that took me down. God had nothing to do with it. Just then, there was a loud buzz and clack, and the heavy metallic door swung open. It was a correctional officer. Everything all right in here? He asked, looking at the lobster tail on the ground, and then back up at the 2 men sitting at the small white table. Just a couple of spiritual pilgrims talking existential shit, boss. Sloane smiled, his greasy, twitchy smile at him. Father Troy, you okay? The CO asked. Thank you, officer, the priest said quietly. Everything is okay. Okay, Sloane, you got about 12 minutes to figure out the problems of the world. Then it's the Hershey Highway for you. Sloane twitched a few times, went blank in the eyes, and then smiled again. I'm going to pay you a visit later, he said. You won't expect it. You'll be at home spanking it to Caitlyn Jenner, and the next thing you know, someone's carving off your nutsack and shoving them up your ass full fist. Brave words coming out of a dead man walking, the officer said, and slammed the door. Sloane smiled to himself with a knowing gleam in those emerald eyes. See, he said to the priest, mankind, we're animals. I'm sorry you were treated like that, the priest says. It's not the officer's place to put judgment on you. That belongs to the court system and the Almighty. God does not judge us. He definitely not going to judge me. Can I ask you a question? The priest slides his chair back, unconsciously, and folds his hands in front of himself. Please, Father, ask away. Why? Why did you do all of this? You ended the life of so many souls in the most brutal way possible. Was it your childhood? Help me understand all of this. The facial twitching became extreme, and that blank stare came across his eyes. Somehow, Father Benjamin knew that he wasn't there during those episodes. Within a few minutes, Sloane returned again. Exodus 21:24, Sloane said, and then gulped the last of his beer bottle. I'm sure you're familiar with that verse. Thou shalt give life for life, the priest says. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. See? Your forefather spelled it all out for you. Mr. Sloane, this is the Old Testament, and the New Testament washed all of that. Please don't give me all of that crap. If the OG Word of God ain't relevant, then why do you fuckers still preach it? You just spat the 10 Commandments at me a few minutes ago. The Bible verse teaches us about justice, that we have the right to take what has been taken from us. And what did these people possibly take from you? Maybe I need to go a little deeper with you, Father. You obviously aren't the deep thinker I thought you were. We're walking around in these meat machines, right? They're all like fleshy cars, and our souls are the drivers. Got it? I think so, the priest said, lighting another cigarette. He was staring at the shot of Irish whiskey as well, wanting to wet his whistle with it. And souls are eternal, correct? Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going on what I've read and what I've experienced so far. Yes, the soul is eternal. That is why I came to absolve you. So, when these meat puppets shut down, our souls go where? To heaven or hell? See, that's where all that scare tactic, dogmatic bullshit fucks it up. You guys even have that thing called purgatory. There's no heaven or hell. If our souls are eternal, which I believe, which I know, then we just keep going. Like reincarnation. Well, something like that. Souls are eternal. If you commit a sin against me and I die before you, I come back again and I bring you a karma sandwich for lunch. And what about the children you killed? The babies that haven't even been around long enough to wrong you. How do you explain that? The twitches came back again, but he didn't blank out. He wiped his mouth and took a deep breath. You aren't following me here, he said impatiently. I thought you priests were well educated. Fuck. Mr. Sloan, it is not the belief of the Catholic Church that souls are reincarnated. That's a Hindu belief, and only about 40% of them believe in that. You believe in an invisible God, whom you've created in your image, I might add, and that a virgin mother gave birth to some holy carpenter. Come on, I don't even think Joseph believed that one. But you can't wrap your head around reincarnation or rebirth. We're eternal souls, Father. Yes, I killed babies. I tore their little limbs apart, some of them even with my teeth. I beat an elderly couple to death with a pipe. Do you think, did anybody on that jury of my peers think that maybe those sons of bitches did something horrific to me in another lifetime? No, nobody did. Y'all have to put things in a box and put a label on it. You can preach all you want about your Catholic Christian magic, but you ignore the base facts. The carnal human nature of man. We're animals that do cruel things to one another, in this life or the last. And in either case, I'm getting mine and I'm dishing out karma. The door buzzed again, and the corrections officer, followed by the warden and 5 other guards, walked in. It's time, Mr. Sloan, the warden said flatly. I'm hoping the time with the Father Benjamin was fulfilling. My compliments to the chef, Sloan said with a smile. Sloan grabbed the shot glass and swallowed the burning whiskey down his throat. He winced and then stood up. I meant no insult to you, Father, Sloan said. Perhaps you didn't get what you felt I needed out of our little palaver today. It is my hope that before you die, the priest looked at him straight in the eye, that you realize the error of your ways, and you ask God to forgive you. He doesn't care, Father. He doesn't even meet us at the pearly gates. There's no devil twirling a pitchfork at the river Hades either. We just keep moving. This isn't my first rodeo, and definitely won't be my last. I've got a long list of shit sandwiches to dish out yet. My only hope is that my next meat puppet is able to carry that out. All right, that's quite enough, Sloan, the head CO says, and slams him into the wall and begins to frisk him for any contraband. Did you hide the steak knife? You fucking monster. I ain't gonna use a knife on you, Figs, Sloane says with that knowing smile. I'll find the rustiest length of barbed wire to castrate you with. With that comment, Officer Figs slams his face into the white brick of the death room, bringing a long flow of blood to Sloane's forehead. Take it easy, the warden scolds. Clean him up and bring him into the chamber. Father Benjamin is excused and escorted to the witness chamber next to the execution room. There is a large, thick-paned glass between them. Inside, the Douglas County Attorney, Sloane's public defender, Judge Atwater, and two of the victims' families sit awaiting the death of Reginald Leroy Sloane. Reginald was the son of Harvey and Audra Sloane from Fremont, Nebraska. They were farmers and the first to die by their son's hands. Their bodies were found a year later in the runoff ditch from the hog barns. The curtain opened, and in a white, sterile room, Sloane was strapped to a table that was tilted up so that everyone could see him. Monitors were attached to his torso, revealing his vital signs. Father Benjamin wished he had brought in his flask, and that he had one more cigarette to puff. Reginald had that blank stare again, and his twitching mouth was covered by an oxygen mask that would deliver nitrogen gas to his lungs. It is by the Nebraska Supreme Court, the warden reads over the PA system, that you, Reginald Leroy Sloane, are to be put to death by the lethal gas for the crime of murder. According to Nebraska Department of Corrections Administrative Code Title 69, Chapter 11, it will be administered here at the Nebraska Correctional Facility by officers of this institution. On this day you will serve your punishment for your crimes. May God have mercy on your soul. A technician, wearing a mask, turns the crank on a canister of nitrogen. The priest can see Sloane's chest begin to rise and fall rapidly as oxygen has left his lungs and the noxious gas has taken its place. He crosses himself and silently prays in his head. Sloane begins to struggle in his straps, rapidly at first, and after about 3 minutes he slows. Then one last heave from his chest, and he is still. It is dark at first, floating there as if in a vast ocean of nothingness, no sound and no light. And then, after his consciousness has calmed itself and accepted the fact that he is no longer in his appointed body, he looks up. There's a light, just a small sparkle in the darkness winking at him, like a star in a depthless sky. He swims towards it, and it gets bigger. The light gets bigger, and he soon realizes that it's not a star at all, but an opening. He closes his eyes and reaches for the light. Father Benjamin smiles into the eyes of the young parents before him. The baptismal bowl separates them. "What name do you give your child?" he asks. "Renee," the parents speak in unison. "And what do you ask of God's church for Renee?" "Baptism." "You have asked to have your child baptized. In doing so, you are accepting the responsibility of training her in the practice of the faith. It will be your duty to bring her up, to keep God's commandments as Christ has taught us, by loving God and our neighbor. Do you clearly understand what you are undertaking?" "We do." Father Troy asks the same of the godparents, and they also agree to do their duty to raise this small child up in the faith of their parents and those before them. He takes the young girl into his arms and stares into her deep blue eyes. They are big and round and full of joy. By the mystery of your death and resurrection, he dips a baby towards the holy water. Bathe this child in light. Give her the new life of baptism and welcome her into your holy church. Just before the congregation asks the Lord to hear their prayer, the baby twitches the left corner of her tiny mouth. It is slight at first, and he lifts the child up to look closer at her face. "Father?" the mother asks. "Sorry," the priest mutters. "I thought that..." The baby twitches again, this time full tilt, and lets out a coo as she does. Father Troy almost drops her into the baptismal bowl. "Father?" The dad leans forward to take his child back. "No," Father Benjamin whispers. "No, this can't be." There's a knowing look in the baby's eyes, and the priest dunks the child's head into the holy water and holds it there. "Father, forgive me," he says desperately. And that, my friends, is Rebirth. I hope you all enjoyed the first story of my book, Thin Spots. Next week it'll be Midnight Dreary, which is the origin of the Anti-Claus. And I know y'all remember the Anti-Claus. So this is about how he came to be. It's the same story I read to you guys last Christmas, or I recorded for you guys last Christmas. I'm going to read it live for you next week. So, yeah. So I hope you guys can come back for that one. This Friday, Steph and I, for Valentine's, we are going to I'm going to sing some of her favorite love songs, and she's going to hopefully bring her bongos and play along. So yeah, it should be a lot of fun. So join us if you can. And that's on Friday night at 8 o'clock. So anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's story. I hope you guys join me again next week for the second story, Midnight Dreary. And I hope you guys have a great week, and we hope we see you on Friday. So thank you all very much for sharing and all that other stuff. Oh, one thing I want to add, and that I have to apologize for. I did not realize that the stars that I've been asking for cost you guys money. I think they're like 1 cent a piece. Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it, Jessica. I'm glad you thought it was groovy, Kevin. Hopefully you can sleep. So, yeah, I did not realize that the stars cost money, and so I must apologize for misleading you. But during Tunes for Tuesday last night when I was talking about it, Bobby goes, "Oh, yeah, they actually do cost people money." And I'm like, "Oh, crap, I didn't realize that." So if you would like to send some stars to me, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do just appreciate the likes and the visits and the chatting with you guys just as much as I do the stars. So it was just a little something I thought I'd try. Also, thank you guys for sharing this event to your friends and family on here. Hopefully you stay your friends and family. Thank you to those of you that don't comment, but you guys stop by, you guys leave a like and whatnot. So I appreciate it. We had 106 excuse me, 106 viewers last night during the show, and much more after that. So yeah, so it's great that people are watching and more of you guys are coming out here, and that is thanks to you, because I'm having issues with it's been the same thing, and nobody seems to be wanting to answer me about why I can't invite everybody on my friends list. I can only invite like 500, and then it stops at that. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. So so yeah, I am very grateful for those that did show up or that did like this. So, well, good, Shannon. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, next week is going to be fun. So little history lesson too as well. So because there's a lot of history happening around next week's story. a lot of true history. So there you go. Anyhow, so thanks again, you guys. Please have a beautiful week, and like and share this page if you would, please, and subscribe, and also send people to my YouTube channel. I did go from like 9 followers to I'm like 32 now, so there you go. I'm like ultra viral. So yeah, but send them on that way. Right now, really, YouTube is just kind of a dumping ground for me to put these videos on, to just to have another place to put them out there. So the viewership actually on YouTube is starting to become more active than it was. So well, good. I'm glad you liked it, Bobby. I am glad you liked it. Yeah. So some of the conversations that the priest and the inmate had are some of the conversations I have had with my own pastors in the past. So, but not as crude as the serial killer. I try not to be too crude with men of the cloth. But yeah. All right, you guys. I'm out of here. I gotta go have some dinner. So, love ya. Please come back again. Peace and a bottle of hair grease. All right. Kevin, I hope you can sleep tonight. I really do. Bye. This is the end. View.